Okay, are you ready for your next act of the evening? Please give a warm applause for my fellow countryman, Mr. Tim Williams.
Alright, so what I was going to do, right, I was going to come on and I was going to start by talking about the 18th century German philosopher G.W. Hegel, right, and I was going to focus particularly on how his work influenced the theory of dialectical materialism advocated by Karl Marx, and then I was going to consider the various ways in which Marxist ideas could be applied to solve some of the world's contemporary economic problems. Then I thought, not a lot of people will understand that, will they? They won't get it, so it's probably better if I think of a subject that'll include more people in the room, but it's quite hard to come up with new ideas for stand-up comedy. Like, a lot of the ideas I came up with for this were very similar to stuff that I'd done before. And I thought, if I get up there and do that, that'll just be identical to the last thing I did, right? So I thought, I've got to come up with a new idea, but I was really struggling, right? It was really hard to come up with an original idea. So I thought, well, I've got no choice now. I've got to do this, right? So I thought, I'll compromise. I'll advertise it on WeChat a few weeks in advance, right? And that'll give everyone the opportunity they'll need to do the background reading that they'll need to appreciate it. But I thought, like, I've worked in education for more than 10 years now, and in my experience, if you set people a voluntary reading task, they won't do it, right? They'll cheat, right? They'll go on Wikipedia and they'll read the synopsis or something, right? And if you set an essay question or something, they'll just copy something off the internet and they'll all hand in exactly the same essay. And you think, well, I must be fucking stupid. You must think I'm stupid. I thought, okay, well, I've got to come up with something else, right? And I was really struggling, right? Because the problem is, right, the way that I come up with ideas for stand-up comedy, I don't sort of sit down and physically write it down. I just start improvising, right? And it sort of comes to me like that. And I just keep doing it over and over again until it goes off in a new direction. But this time that wasn't happening, right? It was awful. I was trapped in this terrible loop of repetition and I couldn't get out of it. I thought, okay, well, I'll have a break, right? I'll put the computer on and I'll go and watch something that I haven't got around to watching yet. And I saw Game of Thrones. I haven't watched that yet. And so I put Game of Thrones on and I binge watched the first 5 seasons in 2 days, right? I didn't even take toilet breaks, right? I didn't. I just had a bucket beside me. People said, did that not get depressing and repetitive, just watching the same thing over and over again, just shitting in a bucket? I thought, no, it's quite appropriate for the condition of modern humanity, so I stuck with it. And then it came to me, I thought, okay, I won't talk about dialectical materialism, I'll talk about Game of Thrones instead. Now, if you haven't seen Game of Thrones, you're not going to understand this, are you? So my advice to you is you either sit this out, right, go to the bar, get yourself a drink, right, and then come back on when the next comedian comes on, or sit there quietly and read something on your phone, okay? If you've got headphones, watch something on your phone. Watch Game of Thrones, okay? By the time it's finished, it'll be too late, won't it? So, no, hang on, this is being filmed, right? This is being filmed, okay? This is going to be on YouTube in a couple of weeks, so get yourself up to speed with Game of Thrones, okay? Just watch the first 5 seasons, right? It goes downhill after that, in my opinion. So get yourself up to find this on YouTube in a couple of weeks' time, and you'll be able to appreciate it, won't you? Hello again, welcome back. You get it now, don't you? Okay, so... Right, so, yeah, the thing is, like, I've done this before, right? I've talked about stuff here, and people haven't understood what I'm talking about, right? And there've been complaints, right? And I don't want there to be a general air of confusion among the audience. And I don't understand this, I haven't seen Game of Thrones, I can't laugh. Right, so that's how, it's mainly Americans that do that, right? No, seriously, I'm not having a go, right? I'm not American, I'm British, okay? But I'm used to watching American comedy and American movies and TV shows, right? And a lot of the time they mention people and they refer to things in American culture that I don't understand, right? But I'm able to figure out from the context, right, what that's supposed to represent. And I'm able to laugh, right? But Americans can't do that. Right? Well, they don't have to. They don't have to. They're not used to having to think deeply about things, right? That's when Trump got elected. That is.
Hillary came out with all this complicated shit about macroeconomics, but I didn't get it. Trump just talked about jobs and Mexicans. I understood that. It was easy.
Right, but I can't talk, right? I'm British, right? And a couple of months before America elected Trump, right? Britain voted to leave the European Union, right? And that's just as bad, if not worse. I'm not sure, I don't know if you care or you're paying attention, but the whole Britain leaving the European Union thing has gone completely to shit. It's a total catastrophe, right? So June 2016, Britain voted to leave the European Union, and we were the laughing stock of the world. And then in November that year, America saved us. Like it always does. 2 world wars and now this. Great Britain is on her knees. She's the laughing stock of the world. The American people step into the breach and make a decision that's even worse. Right, but no, it's different. Like Trump getting elected, right? That was caused by Americans failing to understand the British sense of humour, right? That's a fact. Okay, I've got no statistical evidence to back that claim up, but still, who needs facts and evidence these days, right? So, no, but Britain leaving the European Union, that was caused by something completely different, right? Trump was caused by Americans failing to understand the British sense of humour. Brexit was caused by the British sense of humour, the sense of irony that no one else understands, which is why it's supposed to be funny, apparently, right? May, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to vote to leave the European Union, ironically. Oh mate, that's hilarious. Let's both vote to leave the European Union, ironically. No one will get it, apart from us. That's why it's funny. Guess what we did? We voted to leave the European Union. Why? No, you don't get it. No, it's irony. No, it's clever. Yeah, it wasn't fucking clever when it happened, was it? No, you don't understand, right? We didn't mean to vote to leave Europe. We were being ironic. No, that's not how the voting system works, is it? Okay? Right, the question was perfectly simple. Do you want Britain to leave the European Union? 2 options, yes or no. There wasn't a third option, but irony, was there? No, you don't understand. I demand a second referendum. Too late for that. The result has to be respected. Not as much laughter for that joke, was there? No, it's quite hard to laugh at things that don't concern you, isn't it? So when your country is being held to ransom by some far-right extremists, don't expect me to make jokes about it to make you feel better, okay? Oh, Belgium's been taken over by the far-right. I don't care. I don't even know where Belgium is. Why should I give a shit? Okay, so like all this stuff now about Trump and all this stuff that's happening in Europe now about the far right, everyone keeps going, oh, it's like the 1930s, isn't it? It's like the 1930s all over again. It's like the rise of fascism all over again. And it does remind me of the 1930s, right? It reminds me of my grandfather. Now, he was an English teacher, like a lot of us are, in the 1930s, but he didn't teach English in China like we do. He taught in Nazi Germany, which is completely different, isn't it? There's no similarities there whatsoever, but no, he had a great time, right? He had a great time in Nazi Germany. He loved the Nazi culture, he loved the Nazi food, the Nazi weather. He even had a Nazi girlfriend for a while. 14 years it lasted, Nazi Germany, right? That's more than 5,000 days of history. So, yeah, that was the best joke of the night, right? I paused there for a reason. Well, no, it's too fucking late laughing now. Alright, so my grandfather, right, had a similar hatred of Winston Churchill that a lot of people today have about Donald Trump, right? He absolutely despised Winston Churchill. He thought he was a racist, a bigot, a homophobe, a sexist. And in those days, Facebook and Twitter didn't exist, right? So you couldn't repost memes about the people you hated. You had to write letters and telegrams. And he used to endlessly write letters and telegrams, sending them to England, about how much he despised Winston Churchill. Right? Tapping out, Churchill is a cunt, in Morse code, and sending it across the English Channel, just flooding England with all this vitriol about how he hated Winston Churchill. I thought it was quite strange that he lived in Nazi Germany, and yet he thought that Winston Churchill posed a greater threat to freedom and democracy than Hitler and the Nazis. And I remember I had a conversation with him about it. I said, Grandad, why did you think that Winston Churchill was worse than Hitler and the Nazis? Well, he said offensive things. He said a lot of offensive things. On this is one occasion when he was at a dinner party, he was drunk, and he was being offensive, and a woman said to him, Mr. Churchill, you're drunk. And he said, indeed I am, madam. But in the morning, I shall be sober. You, however, shall always be ugly. Right? That's outrageous! That is outrageous! horrifically sexist. Well, yeah, I agree with you. It is offensive and sexist, but it's not really the same as what the Nazis were doing. It's not. No, it was worse. I don't think it was worse. Well, no, he said other things. He said there was another time, right, and he was sat next to a woman, and he was being offensive, and she said, "Mr. Churchill, if I was your wife, I'd poison your tea." And he said, "Madam, if I was your husband, I'd drink it." Now that's terrible. That's horrendous. The offensive and sexist. Well, again, I agree with you. It is quite sexist. You could interpret it like, but it's not the same as what the Nazis. It's not. It's worse. It's not worse. It wasn't worse. I don't think he was a dictator. What, Winston Churchill was a dictator? Yeah, he was a dictator. He ended priesthood. Really? Winston Churchill was a dictator and he ended priesthood. Yeah, he was a dictator and he ended. Are you sure about that? Yeah, he was. He was a dictator and he ended. It was in all the newspapers. It said Winston Churchill has declared himself dictator. It's the end of free speech. What a cunt. Now, no, I'm sorry, but if all the newspapers were freely able to report that Winston Churchill was a dictator and he was a cunt, then it wasn't really a dictatorship, was it? Yeah, but he said offensive things. Yeah, I know he said offensive things, but it's not the same. Right? Okay, what about when you heard about the concentration camps? Okay, what about when you found out that there were more than 1 million members of an ethnic minority being illegally detained in concentration camps? What did you think about that? Well, I didn't know that's what they were for. Right, you could have just changed the name. So instead of saying Hitler and Churchill, you could have said Napoleon and the Duke of Wellington. Well, people might not have understood what I was talking about. I mean, to be honest, a lot of the foreigners who were living in there in Nazi Germany weren't really interested in the politics of the country they were living in. They were more interested in reading stories about dragons. Well, no wonder the fucking Holocaust happened! Well, you wouldn't have done it, would you? You wouldn't have got up there in Nazi Germany and exposed the concentration camps in a subtle way, would you? Actually, I think I probably would have done, Grandad, to be honest. So it depends on your perspective, doesn't it? Okay. Alright, so I'm going to start by talking about Game of Thrones, okay, and then I'm going to talk about porn and Pornhub and the porn industry in general, right? And at the end, I'm going to link it back to something I said about Game of Thrones at the start. So you'll see what I mean when we get there, won't you? Right, so let's get started. Okay, so I'll tell you what's going to happen. What's going to happen is I'm going to come on again, right? I'm going to go back over there, and you're going to give me a really loud round of applause, like you did at the start. Well, no, actually louder than the one you gave me at the start. That was pretty pathetic, to be honest. I mean, some of you did look as though you were watching the coffin of a close relative being lowered into a grave. So, slightly better. Okay, so imagine it's the 70s, right? And Elvis has walked into the building, right? No, not 70s Elvis, right? It was in a bad way then. 50s Elvis. No, imagine it's the 60s, right? And the Beatles have walked into the building, right? Oh my God! What the fuck are you doing here? I was expecting the White Monkeys. I thought I was going to have to sit through Fall to Fly one more time. Here it is, look. John, Paul, George and Francesco, or Ringo. Well, they do make a similar creative contribution to their respective bands. So, okay, so I'm going to come on again. I'm going to go over there, right? You're going to start clapping, right? And as I approach the stage, the clapping will intensify and you're going to start cheering, okay? Understand? Okay, so let's get there. Let's go. Okay, so start clapping now. Right, I didn't want music. I didn't want music. No, you don't, look, listen, right? No, fuck, look, listen, seriously, right? Right, I'll explain, okay? I come on, right, and the first 5 minutes of the next bit is me reacting to what you, and if the music isn't part of it, for fuck, you fucked this up! I'm not the only one with an obligation to make this funny, okay? You've got responsibilities as well, okay? So get your fucking shit together. Alright, so, okay, we're going to do it one more time. Okay, I'm going to come on, clap, intensify the clapping, and then properly cheering. No fucking music. Okay, come on. Right, thanks for that. Okay, so what I was going to do, right, I was going to come on and I was going to start by talking about the 18th century German philosopher G.W. Hegel, and then I was going to focus particularly on how his work influenced the theory of dialectical materialism advocated by Karl Marx. And then I was going to consider the various ways in which Marxist ideas could be applied to solve some of the world's contemporary economic problems. And I thought, not a lot of people will understand that, will they? They won't get it. So it's probably best if I come up with an idea that includes more people in the audience. Now, it's quite hard to come up with original ideas for stand-up comedy, and a lot of the ideas I came up with for this were very similar to stuff that I'd done before, and I thought, well, if I get out there and perform now, that'll just be identical to the last thing I did, and people will see right through it. So I thought, well, I've got to come up with another idea, but I couldn't think of anything, and I've got to stick with this now. I've got no choice. So, right, I'll compromise. I'll advertise it on WeChat a couple of weeks in advance, and that'll give everyone the opportunity, the background reading they'll need to appreciate it. But in my experience, if you set a voluntary reading task, people won't do it. They'll cheat. And if you set them a writing exercise, they'll just copy something that's been done before, and they'll hand it in. And you think to yourself, you must think I'm fucking stupid. And so I thought, I've got to come up with something else, and I was really, really struggling. And then I had this really weird sense of deja vu, and I thought, I'm sure I've seen this before. I thought, no, it's probably just my imagination, right? The problem is, like, the way I write, I don't sort of physically write stuff down when I come up with stand-up, but I just start improvising, and then I just sort of keep doing it again and again and again until it goes off in a different direction. And this time that wasn't happening. I was stuck in this terrible loop of repetition, and it was awful. And then I thought, I'll take a break. Okay, I'll go on the computer and I'll watch something that I haven't seen yet, that I've downloaded, right? So I found Game of Thrones, and I binge-watched the first 5 seasons of Game of Thrones in 2 days, when didn't even take toilet breaks. I just had a bucket beside me. People said, did that not get depressing and repetitive, just watching the same thing over and over again? And I said, no, it didn't. It seemed quite appropriate for the condition of modern humanity. And then I thought, oh, that's it, I won't talk about dialectical materialism, I'll talk about Game of Thrones instead. Because people can relate to that, can't we? That's why we watch Game of Thrones, we can relate to that. We all know what it's like to live in a pseudo-medieval fantasy world with dragons and white walkers. We can all relate to the experience of an aristocratic dwarf who murdered his own father and then strangled the prostitute who betrayed him, and then eloped to the side of Daenerys Targaryen, the mother of dragons, to launch a naval invasion of King's Landing to depose his own family from the Iron Throne. We can all relate to it. Well, I certainly can. Right? It's not easy being a dwarf in Westeros, right? There is a lot of discrimination. People say things to me about my height. It's not very pleasant. Westeros is not a progressive realm, okay? It's going to be another 5,000 years or so, I think, before the hashtag #MeToo campaign reaches Westeros. It is quite lonely being a dwarf here, okay? And the only sex I can get is when I pay for it. The only meaningful relationships I've had are with prostitutes. I actually murdered a prostitute a couple of years ago. I don't know if you've heard of that. My friend, Jon Snow, actually got murdered at the war, but he was brought back to life by the Red Lady. Now, we don't have a first-class medical system in Westeros. We rely on that. Now, if you're not laughing at this because you haven't seen Game of Thrones, okay, you've only got yourself to blame, okay, because I did warn you. Alright, it could have been a lot worse. I could have talked about dialectical materialism. Okay, so, you know, don't blame me, okay? Now, you know, for fuck's sake, it's hard to come up with a subject that everyone's going to understand, okay? It's really difficult. We do like Game of Thrones. We just don't like this. Shit. Get off. Put Game of Thrones on instead. Yeah, that's right. I know what you really want. I understand the Hefei expat community. You got the afternoon off from your 10-hour-a-week teaching job. What are you going to do? You're going to use your imagination and do something creative. Write a novel about your experiences in China. Learn a musical instrument. Learn the language. No. I'm going to binge watch Game of Thrones and then go on Pornhub. Mate, we're all going to the mountains this afternoon. There's a really cool cultural exhibition up there, like a lot of local people in ethnic dress doing ethnic dance and ethnic music. I just think it'd be a really cool cultural thing to do. That's the sort of thing we came here for, isn't it? I've actually got quite a lot on this afternoon. I've got to plan my lessons. You've got to plan your lessons. I thought you just wrote down what you're going to do 5 minutes before you walked into the classroom and then just winged your way through it. Well, normally I do that, but I just thought it might be better if I make more effort to apply myself and I get more out of my teaching job that way. Now, porn, okay, it's still something of a taboo subject. It is, right? We're all, which is strange really, considering it's a major industry, right? It drives the economy. Like, it really does. Now, my VPN hasn't been working as fast as it usually does, and I haven't been spending as much time on Pornhub as I normally do. And the economy is slowing down, so join the dots. Okay, I'm not having a go, right? It's their internet. They can slow it down as much as they like, but you reap what you sow, don't you? So, no, I was in the boundaries for that one. I didn't say which country's internet I was talking about. I could have been talking about the American internet, except I wasn't. Now, we're all used to standing around the water cooler or standing at the bar talking to people about our favourite Game of Thrones episodes, aren't we? Oh, have you seen the latest Game of Thrones? Yeah, it was brilliant. All the dragons flying and then everyone got murdered. It was great, wasn't it? But we don't do the same thing about our favourite porn videos, do we? Which is strange, really, because we probably spend more time watching porn than we watch anything else. Have you seen Cherie DeVille's latest anal cream pie video? No, I'm not really into MILFs. That's not. You're not really into MILFs? No, I'm more into teen porn. That's more. Right, really? Well, you've probably been watching the wrong MILF porn. I've got some brilliant links to some MILF porn that I can say. Oh, okay, cool. I'll take a look. But I'm not really. Did you see that MILF porn? I said, yeah, I watched the MILF. Yeah, it was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. It got me going the whole way through. I was pumping away right there. Right, so I watched a porn film recently. When I say a porn film, I mean a feature-length film, right? Not just one of those short ones, like 30 minutes long, right? That's the average length of a Pornhub video, right? 30 minutes long. And then you've got the compilation videos, which are like 78 minutes long. I'm not watching that. I won't get through it. I'll be finished after about 15 minutes. You've got the 30-minute films, right? And then you've got the edited version. Now, I don't know if you've spent as much time as I have analysing the average length of a Pornhub video, right? But you've got the 30-minute Pornhub videos, and then you have the edited version, which is almost always 6 minutes long, right? Or just over 6 minutes, right? Not 5 minutes, not 7 minutes, not 8 minutes, 6 minutes, right? And the reason for that, right? Pornhub are very clever, okay? They know what they're doing. 6 minutes, right, is the average amount of time the average adult male spends in the toilet emptying his bowels, right? That is a credible time period to lock yourself in the toilet with your phone, okay? Now, if you're a slow shitter, right, you're just incriminating yourself. You've got no idea what people are saying about you behind your back. Or maybe you do, maybe you've been confronted about it, right? What have you been doing in there for the past 9 minutes? I wasn't. No, 6 minutes is a credible time period, right? Just get in the toilet. Okay, fine, I won't be long. I'll just, no more than 6 minutes or so. I'll just get my phone.
You do that?
This is more appropriate for Hefei, isn't it? This is the level we should be aiming for, all that political stuff earlier. No, this was hilarious. It was the best thing he did. I don't think he'll do anything funnier than that again. He came on, he started talking about porn, and he started wanking on the stage. Now, he wasn't really wanking, that would have been a sex offence. And he made the microphone look like a cock. No, I don't think his penis really was that size. No, go on. No, you're welcome to laugh at any point, it's fine. Okay, so I watched a porn film, like a feature-length film, right? Porn for women, okay? This was porn for the #MeToo era, okay? It had obviously been directed and written by a woman, okay? It wasn't so much a porn film, it was more a young girl's spiritual journey towards sexual awakening. Okay, the porn was just a background thing. It was incidental to the character and the story, okay? And it had a very feminist #MeToo title, okay? Christian virgin girl loves anal gang rape. Okay, now, no, right, and the premise was, again, it starred one of my favourite porn actresses, Jodie Taylor, okay, very versatile. Okay, you can put her in any position, girl on girl, DP. Yeah, double penetration. You know what that means. Don't pretend that you don't know what. Well, DP, I don't know what he's talking about. What's that? I don't know. I don't watch porn. I don't. Double penetration, bondage. Okay. And the premise was it's set in a Christian dating agency, right? For the first 20 minutes, she's going round meeting all these different Christian men, right? And one by one, it becomes apparent that she's not impressed by any of them. And she rejects them all. And you can see the look of disappointment and rejection on their faces. And that kind of sets it up for later. Because you can see where this is going now, can't you? So at the end, right, she goes around meeting all these men, and then she gets invited into the back room, and they sit her down in front of a video camera, and they ask her to just recount her experience of the Christian dating agency. And then all the men from earlier who rejected her slowly come up behind her, and you're like, oh, they're building up the suspense here. What's going to happen? And then one of them whips out a bag and puts it over her head. Now, no, it was a canvas bag, not a plastic bag. Okay, if you're going to gang rape somebody, your first concern should be for their safety. So a canvas bag would have allowed her to breathe. Right? Within 30 seconds, they stripped her completely naked. First man lowered his trousers, fully erect penis, seamlessly entered her anus. Now, if you're a Christian virgin girl, right, bearing in mind this was the first time she'd had sex of any description, right, particularly anal, right? I mean, this guy was a professional gang rapist, okay? He did this for a living. He was not small, right? But it went in seamlessly, right, without any visible lubrication, right, or anything. I'm sorry, but even with sluts, right, and you're trying to, no, you've got to force it. No, you have, no, right, it just went straight in. I thought that was quite strange, right. I also noticed that she had a completely shaved vagina, right. Now, I don't know what denomination of Christianity thinks that it's acceptable for Christian virgin girls to shave their vagina. Maybe she lived in a hot climate and she shaved it for hygiene reasons, I'm not sure. But that didn't explain the heart-shaped tattoo and the clitoral piercing. Now, not sure what the heart was supposed to represent. Maybe it was supposed to represent her love of Jesus. Right? All ye who enter here, enter the kingdom of heaven. I don't know, maybe. Right, so this went on for about 20-25 minutes or so, with a bag over her head, and she was visibly struggling and appeared to be screaming. And I thought, I don't think she does love anal gang rape. That's a very misleading title, isn't it? And I got quite angry about the title. I thought, I'm gonna leave a comment at the bottom of the video, right? Because that's what we do now, isn't it? We get angry about something, we go on the internet and call someone a cunt. So I left a comment at the bottom of the video saying, to whom it may concern, I am writing to lodge a complaint about the above video. It's perfectly clear from the content depicted that the eponymous character of this video does not love anal gang rape. I suggest that you rename the video to avoid any future misunderstandings. I look forward to your apology forthwith. Yours sincerely, the Jizz Goat. Now that's my Pornhub username. I didn't choose that. That was chosen for me by the Pornhub algorithm. I don't know why. They analysed my porn viewing history and decided that was the most appropriate username for me. I've got no idea why. So I thought, okay, I've had enough of this video. I'm going to stop watching it now. It's offended me. But I thought, no, I'll stick with it, right? I'll stick with it. I'll see where it goes, right? And it went on in the same vein for another 5 or 10 minutes or so. And then eventually, she was on her knees, and the guy removed the canvas bag from her. And it was obvious from her expression that something had changed. And he looked at her and he said, "You fucking love that, don't you? You bitch." And she went, "Yeah, I love it." And I thought, oh, she does love anal gang rape. It is a good title. I can enjoy it now. Right? And then the whole dynamic completely changed. And from that moment on, she was clearly in control of the entire thing. She was making them do stuff. She was in control of the whole sexual situation. And I thought, this this is how far we've come, right? 100 years ago, women were struggling at the risk of their own lives to get the right to vote. And here we are in 2018, where women are so empowered they can take control of their own anal gang rape. That's progress, right? So I was so impressed by the video that I decided to write an email to Jodie Taylor to express my appreciation for her. And I got a reply from her, right? And it said, "Dear Tyrion Lannister, many thanks for your email. I'm glad you appreciated my work in Christian Virgin Girl Loves Anal Gangbang, although I didn't have quite the degree of creative control that you seem to think. Additionally, I think it's pretty obvious that you've spent so much time binge-watching Game of Thrones, you've become so deluded that you've convinced yourself you're a character in Westeros. I suggest you seek urgent psychiatric treatment immediately. With regard to your request to meet me alone at a non-disclosed location, unfortunately, my diary will not permit such commitments. If a slot does become free, you'll be the first to know. Yours sincerely, Dr. Jodie Taylor, clinical psychologist." What a waste. She could be out there preventing suicides, right? But to pay off her student loan debts, she has to resort to simulating anal gang rape. And I thought teaching English in China was bad. That could have been me. Right, thanks very much. Cheers!